Welcome back to another video. So this is the next part in the Bug 2003 Diesel Restoration Series. Last episode we went ahead and got it started, make sure it ran, and did an initial cleaning of the interior and then kind of went over everything we need to do. So this video, my plan is to work on the brakes and get that system back up and running properly. I know that they kind of work, but based on what I had heard previously, the especially rear caliper bolts are seized and I was having some issues. So we're probably going to do new rotors, pads, potentially calipers if it needs it. We'll see how that looks. Potentially brackets if it needs those. And the e-brake system, I believe the cable is having issues. So that is the plan for today. Go ahead and disassemble everything and then kind of go from there and see what we can do. Got everything lined up here where I want it. And basically what I'm going to go ahead and do is start by loosening all the lug nuts. It's much easier to do on the ground because if anything rolls, it doesn't, you don't have to try and hit the brakes or something stupid. So we're gonna loosen all the lug nuts and then get those off. And then probably while they're off, might order tires while we're at it just so we can put them on. We'll paint the wheels black so they just don't look all rusty and gross. And keep going from there. I need to see if I can source some hubcaps too. That should look pretty nice. But without further ado, let's go ahead and move onwards. Got it up and off the ground, slightly precarious, but it's good to go. This is a very light vehicle, so checking from one corner kind of lifts the whole front end up, which I was not expecting. However, it's good for us. Now, something I noticed when I was undoing the bolts on the driver's side, lower control arm, the whole tire like moved back on me as soon as I put some leverage on it. And you can see right there, hopefully you guys can see right in here, this whole lower control arm is totally, like the whole bushing is done. I don't know if you can see that. So that definitely needs to get replaced. But essentially it keeps the tire from moving back and forth like this, the whole wheel assembly. And the other side is definitely just as bad. And when I put some rearward torque on here, the whole wheel literally shifted to the rear. So that's concerning. Good thing we're going through everything. So that's something to note. This is a front wheel drive vehicle. I completely forgot. So there's no differentials, no U-joints, none of that stuff. I kind of forgot it was front wheel drive, so good to go there. And then yeah, so I'm going to add lower control arms to the list of things to get into replaced, and then we'll kind of go through our inspection and see where we go. We'll see in a minute. Actually, I'm just going to check it right now. So what we're looking for, side to side, a good amount of something's loose. Up and down. I don't feel, might need a wheel bearing, it's hard to tell. You can hear where the side to side motion's coming from. Usually that means tie rods are shot, but no, actually it's coming from, you can literally see it moving. That rear control arm is what's giving the play, so check that out. Yeah, that is not ideal at all. And up and down. That's where the movement's coming from. So totally shot back there. So adding that to the list for sure. Other side's just as bad. All right, checking out the driver's side now, or passenger side rather. Sorry, not thinking. And definitely got a bad wheel bearing, it seems. Should not be moving this much. Let me see if I can get you a better angle. Shouldn't be moving this much. Yeah. Because the actual, well, actually it might not be a bad wheel bearing. It might just be the, looks like the tie rod right there. See if I can see the movement. Look right here. Okay, so we got a bad tie rod, not wheel bearing. So it didn't move much up and down this way, but it did move this way. So we got a bad tie rod right here. Another thing to know, and then the same deal with that control arm right there. Yeah, that is not good. So control arm on this side as well. We got a tie rod, And I'll see if he wants to do the pair or just the single one. That's really about it for the front end. Sounds a wee bit crusty. What is hidden here? So we got, I don't know what the heck that thing is that is rubbing against right here. Interesting. Look into that a little later. Probably shouldn't be doing that. Who knows though? But duly noted. Anyway, that's about it for the front end. So we're gonna go ahead and get the wheels and tires off. We'll check the back end for wheel bearings as well. And get the wheels and tires off and kind of go from there. All right, so here. So we've got the e-brake engaged, which I think I did that by accident. I'm gonna change that, see if it disengages. Right, see if that disengaged. A little bit, so it's not locked up, it's just tight, but I don't know. There's something moving. Let's get under there and find out. All right, so the movement I'm feeling back here, I forgot he did tell me this. He was taking off these caliper bolts, but it's just the actual caliper being a little loose. And one of the many reasons we didn't just immediately hop in for a test drive. So, okay, looks like everything else is good. Good to know. But the e-brake seems to work because definitely it seems to be loose. I didn't see any issues. The cable actually looks pretty decent shape. I can see it running around there. But good to know. Probably going to get new calipers while we're in here though, depending on how these things are. Definitely brackets if nothing else, because I suspect these guide rods are probably pretty frozen. All right, now on to the other side. Check this side off camera. Didn't notice any issues. Seems to let it spin, although it's a little draggy. It's nothing too concerning. Alrighty. So that's good. Looks like we're doing all right. Nothing too crazy, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and pop off all the wheels now. I just wanted to see how it felt with everything attached. Get a good idea for everything, and then start taking stuff apart now. Sometimes you need to do that because you can't get the leverage that you have with the tire another way. I wonder what that tube's for. Interesting. Couldn't tell you what that's for. Probably a drain for maybe the trunk. I don't know. But let's go get all the tires off now. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is disassemble each side and kind of see what we need to buy. Rotor looks rough, but it's honestly, there's no lip on it. It's probably in great shape, it looks fine. Definitely new pads, but I'm just gonna go ahead and take all this stuff off, set it out, inspect everything, and see what we need to do. Let's go ahead and flip a time lapse and get it done. Unfortunately, the one top bolt looks like it got rounded off and it was not able to come off cleanly, so went ahead and used a grinder and cut it, and then came back a minute ago off camera and just basically scraped it off. Again, nice and flush, no issues there. I didn't actually cut this, I just touched it essentially to surface it, and it was fine. So that's off. It looks like there might be a little bit of a break. I don't know if there's penetrating fluid that's been sitting there. Could be the bleeder, or this might actually be leaking. So we could always replace the seals on that, depending how this goes. Honestly, these are real crusty, so we might just get new calipers. We'll see what he wants to do. The actual e-brake mechanism, not sure how that exactly works, but you need a special tool to be able to essentially rotate that piston back in. Not a special tool, most any brake kits will have it. So grab that. This is the e-brake cable clip. E-brake goes through this hole, and this clip essentially goes on either side and locks it in place. I popped that off and took out our e-brake guy right here, and it seems to have plenty of play. You can move the cable freely on this one, so no worries there. This cable anyway looks like to be pretty brand new, I'd imagine. It doesn't look that old. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop off the rotor next, and we're just gonna hit the wire wheel and get all this crustiness off. But it's actually in pretty good shape, although it doesn't look like it. I wouldn't worry about that, so that'll be fine. So probably caliper, potentially. There's something got stuck and ground part of the caliper down a little weird. Caliper and pads for this side, though, is what it looks like, and a slide pin kit. Which actually, thankfully, it wasn't actually stuck. That's what the actual guide pin looks like, but unfortunately it got frozen. Looks like they might have used red Loctite or something. And if you don't have the exact size wrench, it'll be difficult to get it in and out. Moving on to the back side here, we got to remove this brake caliper bracket so we can go ahead and get the rotor off. It looks like it is a 8mm, so we're going to go ahead and pop off these 2 bolts, and then this bracket will come off, and there might be a brake fluid leak on the top of here, so we'll address that a little bit later, but that's about it. Let's just go ahead and pop that off next. All right, so the actual brake bracket is pretty good shape. We're just gonna wire wheel it probably and hit some paint. And we just gotta order a new set of these, which is no biggie. They were like $5. So there we go. And that'll come with new bolts as well, so we don't need to worry about that. And then now we can pop off, our rotor, and this that'll be done. And it's only 4 more to go. 3 more to go. All right, so I was gonna go ahead and take this thing off. I just saw I removed a little bolt right there, then I realized that this whole thing is actually a bearing assembly. You have to pop off the cap and take everything off that way. And honestly, just hit it with a wire wheel. It's not worth it. Not the wire wheel, but hit it with the bench grinder wire wheel. So I just went ahead and used the other one. Just clean it up a little bit. I mean, there's no lip on here, so it's in good shape. Everything looks good. With the caliper real quick, just to make it look a little better. And honestly, it seems to be fine. So that's pretty much that. This one basically just needs pads and a little boot kit. We'll be good here. I'm gonna go move on to the next one. All right, so now we're gonna go and hop on the rear passenger side and knock that one out. All right, so this side's assembled, seems to be fine. Pretty much everything's reusable except for the pads, so looks to be good to go there. And even the boot pin kit on the other side that I'd cut is good to go over here. So easy day. Let's go ahead and move on to the front next. All right, so moving on to the passenger side next, on the front, and looking at it, aside from some dirt, the actual pads are basically brand new. They look like they are good to go. So you can see the inspection window right there. So the pads are good. I imagine the calipers are probably also just fine. You can spin it so they're not stuck. So I'm not gonna mess with the brakes here. Looks like they're fine. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all this surface crap real quick, just like we did in the past, the wire wheel, and then dust all this stuff off. And the main culprit up front, we have this tie rod right here, as you guys saw earlier. Shouldn't be able to move like that. And this upper ball joint, not upper ball joint, this lower control arm bushing is shot. So we're gonna buy a new control arm. So up here, all I wanna do is disassemble this area, and that should be really all we need. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop off this guy, and then we're gonna take off the bolts that are holding the lower control arm on and just take it off and set it down. This way we can inspect if anything else needs to get done, but it should be fine. So I'm gonna clean this up real quick, and then we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so I was fiddling with this a little bit, and unfortunately the original brackets are completely broken off, so I can't put it back the original way. There's supposed to be a tab that comes off of the actual fender. So in the meantime, I got some thicker thread screws that can go to plastic, and went ahead and just put 2 in here. This is the original one, and then a new one up top, and seems to be pretty solid. I suspect with that bushing being shot, what happened is the wheel got pulled back, probably on a turn, hitting the brakes, or who knows, in reverse, and ripped them off on both sides because they're both equally terrible. So that's pretty much that. But this is good. I just had my wife come out and help me with testing the e-brake, and basically this cable is free now. Well, it was free to begin with, so it's good to go. And she pulled on the brake, I can feel it retract, and then I pull it back out. So e-brake's solid, no worries there. So that's a nice relief. So pretty much the back just needs pads and a slide pin boot kit, and that's good. So onto the front, I'm gonna go ahead and continue disassembly, hit it with the wire wheel just to clean it up a little bit. And I think I'm actually gonna go ahead and remove this underbelly pan, scrape or whatever. I don't know if you guys can see right up in there, but it looks like the coolant, there's a leak there. So that would explain why the coolant level is low when I started it up earlier. So good to know there. Probably place the clamps on that, should be pretty easy. But yeah, one thing at a time. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this pan down. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts under here. And then we'll get that out of the way. That'll expose lower control arms to the lower half of the motor so I can see everything a little bit better. I think the factory one's a plastic one. He installed a metal one, which makes sense looking at how scraped up it is down here. Keep everything nice and safe. So let's get those off next. And I wanted to point out, for those of you, occasionally you'll see me switch from a impact drill to regular ratchets. The reason I keep switching back and forth is my impact is pretty weak. So a lot of times I need the actual ratchet to get in here to do all this stuff. Just a heads up though, that's basically why it is that way. So anyway, let's go ahead and take this thing off. All right, so underneath here now, got the pan off, and I'm kind of just looking around. So we got something leaking. Maybe it's not like dripping, but also hasn't run in years, so who knows if it drips when it's supposed to. There's something up there, right there. I don't know what that is. I touched it. I thought maybe it was coolant, but that looks like an intake pipe coming off of the turbo. So whatever it is probably dripping from somewhere else. To figure that out. I don't know what this thing is. This was just hanging here. I have literally no idea. I'm wondering if maybe it's dirt. I wonder if it's something that goes here maybe. That looks like about right, but I couldn't tell you what that piece is, so we'll have to figure that out. Unless that's the turbo wastegate, which is possible, I suppose. I don't know. I have no idea what that is. So I'll have to look into that a little bit. More I'm looking at, it might be something with the turbo. That's interesting. Our actual transmission is right here. So engine, transmission. I was looking into it, and it looks like it takes a gear oil, not a regular transmission fluid. So I'm looking at how to do a change on that. I assume this is the drain plug. I do not know where the fill plug is. It takes 2 quarts though of gear oil. So if we replace that, it might help it might ease up with the shifts. He was talking about having some issues with that. Other than that though, like the front looks pretty decent. I mean, it's dirty, but like not too bad. I don't see any leaks over here. Let's see what else we got. Oil drain plug, so we'll do that. I do need to figure out what the heck that thing is. Looking at the rest of here, it doesn't look too bad. There's still some residual something I'll have to figure out. It might be fuel, it could be oil, it could be coolant. Hard to tell. We'll figure that out when the time comes. While I'm inspecting the rest of here, the belt looks in good shape, which is nice. I really don't see any other issues. I don't know if the AC works or not. I don't think it does, but he said it was a switch. So that might be something either on the interior or could be the AC clutch switch. It could be something in here. I don't actually know the answer to that question yet. But anyway, the main reason we took this off was to ease our disassembly. So we got to take this bolt off, this bolt off. It looks like these are compatible from both sides. They're the same part. You just flip it upside down, which is kind of cool based on where the bolt holes are. We got to take this off, and we got to take these 3 lower ball joints off, or lower ball joint bolts off, and it should slip out. And then we should be able to take this lower control arm off. Do the same to both sides because that one's also got to come off because it's just as bad. And that should really be that. I really want to know what the heck that thing is because if it's scraping right here, it looks newer than just me. So I'll have to figure out what that goes to. I think it actually might be, what I'm looking at, it really might be the turbo wastegate, which is interesting. I mean, you get more power, but it's definitely a little concerning. Figure that out when we come to it, I guess. Well, it's a pain in the butt, but it is out. And yeah, this whole thing is shot. That's supposed to be solid rubber around there, prevent things from moving. So, she done. And this one's actually in decent shape. I don't know if I can get a new bushing. I think a new control arm's like 30 bucks, so I'm probably just gonna do the whole control arm. I think it'll be easier. And, yeah, you can see where it's been wearing out. Looks like it might be replaceable, but I don't think it's worth it. So, you go ahead and do a control arm on this side. Go ahead and get the other one out. And I'm gonna leave it here just so it's in comparison. But I was curious if it is like how I think it is, but yeah, you can flip it over. Same exact design on this side for each side of the car. So pretty sweet. Go to the other side now. Control arm is out. Unfortunately, I did have to cut the lower ball joint bolt off, but that's no worries. So you can take the nut off, cut this thing out, and then all I'm going to do is just put an extra external nut and bolt on here, so it'll be fine and reusable. The actual ball joints are in good shape. Feels pretty stiff. No issues there. This side's tie rod is definitely newer than the other one, so there's pretty much no play in it. It's pretty damn stiff, which is what you want. Just over grease, so a lot of it oozed out, but it's fine. Inner tie rods seem fine. I don't feel any play, so we're good there. Really, that's about it. So hard parts wise, should be good. Looks like 2 lower control arms in the front. Brakes are probably fine. 1 tie rod, and then we'll look into that engine deal. But we'll do an oil change on there. And I think that part hanging down I was talking about is actually the wastegate. So there's a vacuum line coming off of it. So I'm gonna look up what the deal is with that. But other than that, it's really about it. So I went ahead and picked up 2 used tires for the front. So I just had the other ones down to cords, which is obviously not good. Should be pretty close to ready for a test drive once the first batch of parts shows up for brakes and suspension stuff. So we'll get that put on in the next video. New tires will get put on the front, and then I mean, really, that's about it for right now. I'm going to look into that wastegate, and that'll be next video as well to see what goes down with that. And then it's time for a test drive. We're going to drive it around for a bit, see how it feels, how to get up to temp, and kind of see what's going on. So, yeah, that's about it. So thanks for watching for this episode of the Beetle, and I'll see you guys in the next one.